Hello. Today we are going to, as I showed in the screenshot, improve a mini proposal, or we're gonna create a new mini proposal, or we're gonna help to improve the process how to create mini proposal. So the question is, what is mini proposal? And in my mind, it is something where the proposal requested amount is under 2,000 data or takes less than 2 weeks to complete. So this will like put the very hard requirement on the proposal to be most likely a very small scope, and it is quite effective because you can create a big idea from a lot of mini proposals also, like smaller parts. So it's like one modular part how to start going about proposals. And my current experience with mini proposals was in Fund 5, where I created this overarching proposal about this microtask and challenges, what you saw in Townhall. But the experiments behind that were 3 mini proposals, and one of the cool results was that they all were getting around 5-star rating, which put them top 5. Like I have made 3 proposals and they were top 5 in the Catalyst voting applications. If you right now know that they are it shows the highest ranking ones in the top. So that's one good way. It shows that it is easy to understand and vote on it, and it has like less negative side effects. How it will affect the voting, that I don't know yet. But for the assessing, it was quite clear, and I think that was one of the reasons it got high rating. In the any questions so far before I move on? So I'm gonna link the Miro board again, so we could participate in more ways. Writing down sticky notes, brainstorming with us, and doing some voting. I gotta find the chat.
Okay, so you use the mini proposal process to create small proposals, and you tested those, and you found that process worked very well in terms of feedback from community advisors. Yeah. So now we're going to try this method today on some options, aren't we, Tevo?
Yeah, pretty much. But I have one question before we start going through the treadmill. Is that what is your expectation of what you just heard right now, or what you have heard before? Your expectation, and everybody perhaps could get the word in. So I start by Zoom, and let's take the next one on the list is Steven. And what is your expectation? I'm sorry. For today's session.
So is this me or
Moro? Yeah, it's you.
It's me. Well, to do another mini proposal process, it would be nice to, I suppose the interesting thing would be whether we start a new proposal or whether we look at an existing proposal. And I think there's 2 different things. So we could either apply this method to doing something from scratch, completely new, which could be quite interesting, or we could jump in using this method into something that has already been worked on a little bit.
Okay, Vincent, what are your expectations?
I was trying to mess with the mirror board. I guess I don't particularly have too many right now. I haven't seen how the mini proposals work. I guess I would imagine I would expect there to be some kind of sensing of the group to see whether or not we want to do kind of a drill down on historical projects or or greenfield, a new mini proposal, and maybe, I don't know, a little bit more on what the mini proposal, like what, I guess I don't understand fully, because this is my first time in the breakout, what a mini proposal looks like. So I kind of expect that we might see, it'd be nice to maybe see an example, and not to crowd out any innovation, but just to kind of get an idea of what could be accomplished if we come together on something.
Okay. Nice. Joran, what?
Yeah, I kind of the same. I mean, I want to see how it works and how I can contribute. It's like kind of my first time also. I mean, I've been in a couple of meetings, but really to see how, I mean, see how practical we can get fast and how I can help and what's next. Really, it's a learning session for me, to be honest. So to see, you know, again, learn more about it and how we can support it. That's my objective.
Thank you. HV.
I largely concur with the previous statements.
Okay, I think let's get to Kasla.
It seems that it's the same party. I'm quite new as well. This is my second time in a breakout room, and basically the first time I'm understanding what is actually happening there. So I have only a top level overview of what proposal is in the first place, let alone the mini proposals. So my general aim is to learn more about how it's structured, how it's laid out, basically how it works. So I'm here to learn.
And finally, Martin. Do you have any expectations from today's session?
Oh, is that me?
Yes.
I have made some proposals in Fund 4 and Fund 5. And I've made a housing for Fund 5, which I'm working on now. And I think I'm also wanting to improve my proposal for Fund 6. So it's always good to see how people build proposals, and yeah, how I can make my proposal better for people to understand better what you can add.
Yes, thank you. My expectations for this today is to one thing. What was an experiment for me was, what is your expectations? And I tried to see if that question quickly captures some things I could next time start with, and already get some ideas out how to avoid these first questions and always get expectations to the next level. So my here expectation is also to learn from facilitating these kinds of meetings. And yeah, let's try something. I created a voting. Let's decide and give everybody 1 minute. And if you're on a mirror board, I'm going to share the link again if you missed it. New people joined. You don't have to join, but if you do, then you will get 2 votes and you will be able to vote. I just created this or that right now, but you will be able to vote on the idea of what we are going to do in this session. So the first option would be to improve the mini proposal process. So I'm going to show you one how the mini proposal process looks like. No, that's not that one. This one. So it is like one linear method where it starts with a question and then goes on. And we have had few sessions about this. And then the idea is I have like analyzed and captured this kind of feedback, like what could be improved, what could be added. And then we could take this feedback and select it. Okay, let's do this one. And we brainstorm the solution and maybe even design the solution. And
then could you zoom in a little bit on that? so that we can see it a bit more. They're great. Thanks. Sorry to see it. Yeah.
And yeah, and the next thing is to create our purely from scratch our proposal itself. So we would start with what problem you see, and brainstorm quickly some problems, make some votes on which we want to go down with, and then we find the root cause for the problem and keep on going, answering the questions and trying to connect this outline. Or final chances, or final method is we take somebody else, like different team, like brainstorming and solutions. Here is interesting thing that this one proposal has been done twice now, like this problem, and that will now be a third part of people going forward with the next set of stuff. So that's also another interesting thing, like how could we effectively continue from where last people were off and see if we can add value until to the end. So these are 3 options, and once I start voting, then everybody on the mirror board will have an option to two votes, and you can either put both of your votes in one place or separate them, or just not use them at all.
So just to recap, that's voting on improving the mini proposal process, which Tevo just sort of showed here, or creating a new mini proposal from scratch, or improving an existing mini proposal that has gone through 2 iterations already, and that's what we're voting on.
Yeah. And this is how voting is done, and you all can see my votes. And if you're done, then you wait for 1 minute. I think I see everybody in the same place. Maybe I pulled them in. It's unfortunate. Now they have the option to vote. And let's see, did we vote or was it only me who did it?
Yeah, on my computer mirror board is not so not great.
Okay, so we have a tie. Martin, do you want to be the icebreaker and choose the either new one or existing one?
I have not a big preference, so
Yeah, we should count vote as well.
I'm fine with both. Sorry, if I don't have a really big preference, it's maybe not so. Yeah, I can force it, but.
All right. Well, I guess if everybody is in a between, I think let's try to continue with the other people's proposal, because I think that's the hardest thing to do, like and to improve the process of like making this one proposal from all of these events, which were one idea was gone through by 100 people, perhaps, I don't know, maybe less, hopefully less, and see what comes out of it. So that would be a nice end goal. So
can you recap what we did there then, Tevo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the process, how it usually starts is like, first we brainstorm some problems, and then we voted, okay, we were more like talking about bridging social media and Catalyst, and the main stuff was narrow bridge between Catalyst and social media, passive Cardano community to engage interest, gap between YouTube content and other platforms, and where lies the voter interest. So from this, we chose, we like moved down to the rabbit hole, and it's hard for for people to get involved in Catalyst by passive Cardano community. And another problem was it's hard for people to get it. It's copy paste or it's copy paste. Okay, so basically we had one like why are these bigger problems and narrowing it down, and then narrowing even more down and brainstorming more solutions, where we ended up with two ideas. We are not activating full potential of Cardano community. That's one of the proposal like titles, if you could say. And there's a disconnect between potential collaborators and opportunities between Project Catalyst. So running with this problem, two problem statements, we started brainstorming what solutions do we need, and trying different things. Is like simple infographics, creating list of opportunities, easy to consume video clips, how to sign up, how to register, like all of this kind of stuff. And then some discussion about target audience, where is the attention. And from this kind of discussion, we pulled up two like scoped down solutions. One is simple infographics about Catalyst process on Twitter and up-to-date information in what state you are in process on Twitter. So both were like targeting a specific platform and a specific use case. Then
sorry, those solutions are answering the problems that were stated before. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
So and to prove it, we did have to come up with some like why are these solutions handling the previous problem, and the two solutions are good flow of information helps to onboard people at the right time, and up-to-date solution is helping to convert person action.
So they're the reasons why it's a solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody has questions so far? If not, yeah, sure. And then this like one session ended, and in the next session, yes, that's so nice. In the next session, we had another people who were kind of took the same like understanding. Okay, what is the problem they want to solve, and what are the two solutions they like used to solve them, and then started brainstorming like a branding for that. Like if so, for let's say if both of these problem like solutions are different proposal for the problem, then what could be the connecting name for them? So this will help both for the proposer to market their idea like they are all part of that bigger thing, and it also will help to keep the scope down and the proposal itself easier for advisors and voters to read, and let the community like choose what features or use cases they would like to use for this particular problem.
So branding's important because you're breaking it down into different little mini proposals, and you want those mini proposals to be associated with each other, and that's why the branding is important, Tevo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That remains to be seen if that is a good thing to start in a third chapter. But
yeah, sure.
At that point, we went with that, and like pretty much we are here to discuss like what could make it a common thread, and what the solutions, and what is the value of branding. I kind of say increasing your presence on idea scale, create stronger identity, easier to connect, bigger picture. But the risk is that it might look like a spam, so you have to make sure that the scope is like reasonable, that the proposal is reasonable to make it so granular.
So it's an open question whether it's worthwhile spending that much attention on branding. It's the open question.
And then when we talked about, okay, what do we need to figure out to create a brand? And then we talked about common interfaces, common goals, common tech, and taxonomies. Like common interfaces would be API, goals would be let the people know what you're doing, what you're looking for, and text infographics. So quite related to the solution itself. And in the common tech will be both different projects, but using the same resources. So I kind of lost context there, I guess. Taxonomies, clarity, and simple wording. So it has to be simple. And then we have few of these branding names we could choose to vote on. And add or more. So as we go on, we could just come up with more names, like 1 or 2 word names to improve it. Any questions so far? Because our next step will be to actually start continuing. And the first thing would be state you or your team roles in the proposal. So considering the problem where we want to address, there is a disconnect between potential collaborators and opportunities between Project Catalyst. And if we choose one solution, let's say up-to-date information is what state you are in process on Twitter. So what roles do we need to update the information on Twitter? And I could already start with like few roles. Like,
and this is the kind of thing that's expected in a proposal, is to state who your team are and what they, how they're going to, how your choice of team role is going to address the problem and the solution that's stated in your proposal. And that's and we went through, as Tevo said, we went through a little branding exercise to see if we're creating lots of mini proposals, whether that's worthwhile doing. But now we're back into, if you like, the meat of the proposal again, which we would all have to do if we were going to submit a proposal to identify, team roles and how our team relates to, addressing the solution and the problem.
Yes, so addressing that specific situation. So I wrote down 3 roles, like writer, and he's like proofreading and making it simple to read. Then we need, I guess, a researcher who, I don't know, is it a role, but somebody who goes to town halls and goes to the community to capture the on-time information. Collect on-time information. That's relevant. Is there any else roles we might need? What comes up in your mind? What we need to for the on-time, like Twitter, if you want to post a Twitter message, what are all the roles we would need to have? This could be all one person, so that's not relevant, but the idea is like, what are the different roles and actions you are doing to get a message effectively to people, let's say in entire fund, like fund 6 starts, and now we have one Twitter space, and there is always on-time information.
So I've not been at this from the beginning. Is this about the proposal itself? So not about Cardano Catalyst?
It's
or
it's about what we're doing. What we're trying to do is to try and recreate the experience of drafting a proposal itself. So it is related to how proposals, the categories are match how proposals are completed on ideas scale onto Project Catalyst. So so we have problem sensing, and then the solution, and then after that there's specific things you need to do in a proposal on idea scale.
Yeah.
In order to, and that's what we're trying to sort of workshop that through this sort of, but what Tevo's done here, he's kind of cut it down a little bit, because a normal proposal would be a lot more lengthy, a lot more detail than this. And this is trying to simplify it. So although it's a work in progress, so we welcome your feedback on this, actually. I mean, so that's what we're hoping to do, is to try and find a way to get people, particularly people who are new to proposals, and that's part of the post, well, and anyone, to get them through, familiar with what to think about in terms of doing a proposal. And that's why we're calling it a mini proposal.
Yeah. But you post on Twitter what in every stage you post suggestions about what you can improve?
No,
this is a mini proposal, and it is a proposal itself, but goes to the idea scale, and as somebody who started it, and the problem is there's a disconnect between potential collaborators and the opportunities between Project Catalyst. So we now take this problem, and another group brainstormed 2 solutions for this problem. We could brainstorm more, but we would. But there is another thing: we could just finish it and take their solutions and try to finish their solutions. And right now, I address this up-to-date information in what state you are in ideas scale process on Twitter. So if that proposal is funded, then what it's gonna do is what we're writing it down here, and we want to clarify what this proposal will do. Does it make sense? So we are creating proposal here right now, but collectively through different sessions.
Yeah. I think it could be confusing because we're already doing an existing proposal, and the subject of the proposal, the solution is to use social media. You see, that's part of the solution. It's not a generic. So, and one of the solutions is to market yourself on Twitter.
Okay.
And another solution, that's one of them, that's 2.2. And then 2.1 is another solution that says, let's do some nice graphics, and that's about the Catalyst process, and let's post that on Twitter. And that's another solution. And that's a solution to the problem is there's not any information about the process. Do you see what I mean? And so what the proposal is, what we're trying to brainstorm here, is how to solve that problem. And our solution is to use social media in those 2 ways.
Yeah.
You see? Now we're moved on from there. We're moving on now to more, who's going to work on that? What team are we going to build to work on that? Who do we need? And this is the kind of thing that you would need to put in a proposal, in a Fund 5 or a Fund 6 proposal. If you stated a problem, and then you said, okay, my solution to this problem is X, Y, Z. Okay. Yeah. And then you'd say, the next thing you'd have to say is, well, one of the things you'd have to say is, I want to build this team, or I have this resource that's going to address the solution or meet the solution. And this is why these people can do it. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So the issue, I guess, if I'm hearing you correctly, is to refine or streamline what data that matters that goes into a proposal that we can actually aggregate and validate to make sure that they can do or they can produce what they're suggesting or or proposing. How does social media, particularly Twitter, solve that particular solution? Is it just creating a form of transparency? Is that what we're doing?
Well,
Is that what the social media aspect is for?
I mean, that's a good question, James, because that came out of the last workshop and that came out of the people involved there. The people involved in the last workshop came up with this idea to use social media, you see. So we're kind of inherited that you know, that's the solution that they gave. But as you point out, it may not be the right solution.
Yeah, I don't see this as a, I mean, this is an interesting angle. I've thought about this in detail. And for me, I think what we need to do is break proposals up into their component parts of functionality, meaning there has to be a computer design dev with the ability to produce what they're proposing. There has to be somebody that can market it and in an educated way explain what the project is about. And those two components, that's just two out of a possible 5. Those can be components of a proposal. And then what we need to do is have proposal evaluator groups, because let's say I'm not a programmer, but I'm a really good marketer. I could evaluate this individual's marketing history and skills and give a good vote on whether this individual has the ability to do what they're proposing. Whereas I would need a developer on my side co-evaluating this proposal to look at the code, to look at the development process, because we just need specialists to look at these components of proposals to evaluate if the proposal is viable. And one person doesn't have all the mastery of skills. We need specialist groups. And the problem is when we have these specialist groups, we can't pick the same specialist groups because we get favoritism. So my initial idea was to create a list or multiple lists of specialists in their own field, things that people would be interested in evaluating on proposals, whether it be dev, marketing, whatever, history. And then those guys can do their votes, and together with the dev vote, the marketing vote, the evaluation votes, that would help to consolidate or solidify whether a proposal was good.
That addresses more the structural problem of the proposal process itself, isn't it? Whereas here well, in a sense, we're reducing the proposal process down to a mini proposal, and the reason why we're doing it here is for educational purposes, essentially.
Wonderful. Well, that's actually good too.
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying, but it's kind of like here it wouldn't work it doesn't work quite the same in the mini proposal, because in the mini proposal we don't have the scope to. I see what you've got there is a great idea, because that's like a reform of the whole idea scale process itself, isn't it? Where you take away, if you like, siloing of resources on different proposals, and then you spread that out into different teams, which create resource pools. Is that what you're thinking of there, James?
Yeah. Our existing, think of the existing structure now. We have one individual can walk into Catalyst. They could have no skill. They could just know somebody and say, well, I have Cardano. I'm going to vote on this because I like this guy. But that doesn't help us refine the viability and also be able to backtrack how we can identify viability in the future. What we need to design is a process where we have specialists looking at the special components of each proposal to vet whether or not it will produce viability. And it will take time for us to figure out what components really matter. But we need to break everything down into their parts so we can start to categorize which part produces the viability. Is it the marketing part? Is it the coding or the developing team? Education is key, but we can't teach every single individual to properly evaluate a proposal, because every individual doesn't possess all the necessary skill sets to do so.
So here we're on a kind of a micro level. It's not the same. In this workshop on a micro level, we're trying to identify the team structure that would be needed. It's not the same. It's not the same as you say, as doing that. But that's what we're trying to do with this workshop is for people who are particularly new to the proposal process, or who want to think about the proposal process as it is in new ways. you know,
Right.
because that's what we have.
Right.
It's really for that purpose, I think. So
Have we identified like what goes into a proposal, and can we categorize or at least break them up to segment them to figure out what, like, I don't know, I wouldn't even know how to do it. Like the first thing would be the people, you know, who are these individuals? What are their histories? Yeah, that could be a component of a catalyst proposal. And then once we've identified that we have the good people or capable people, now the idea, where does this idea fit in the ecosystem and how can it do what it needs to do? And then we could have the code. You know, we could break it down and do as many simple parts as we want, but I agree with what you're doing. This definitely makes sense. We have to start here to refine it, but I think we could shatter this and refine it by making it a lot simpler and just figuring out what demographics in each proposal truly manifest a successful proposal or a successful project.
about the resources on the
So not
I think that this is very relevant. What even the interruption was not on track, but if you're
yeah.
writing a proposal, it is not easy to get a team
yeah.
and have everybody in a common direction.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how do you, the most difficult thing is finding the people who
Yeah.
have the same interests, but different capabilities, and then getting them together. Because
yeah, that's one thing, but right now what we are experimenting here is actually because I analyzed the recordings and the questions and how we can socially guide people to understand the idea. So if we could construct a way of linear fashion, we like figure out what people want, and then you have like idea, you know how business roles work, and you know what teams you need to build something. Some people know exact time and like how many hours something like this. So some people have the concept of, okay, if you want to share information, then you need this and that, like, and then we are maybe able to don't need a team. Like that's the point. Like you have a problem and you just put the problem through a swarm or like a session where people just grab on the problem and like break it down. Okay, there are solutions, these are roles, these are hours it takes, and people don't even know each other. They are just good at what they do, and they create out the solution, and then come the committee or whoever comes in and like looks, okay, this solution is good, and maybe there is names behind the solutions or roles or whatever information to pull out the team afterwards.
I suppose from a brainstorming perspective, the question is, what comes first? Does the idea come first, or does the team come first?
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've got an idea, let's say, we've got an idea that is a solution to a problem. And the problem here is something to do with communication about Catalyst, okay? And solution is a kind of social media solution, if you want it. That's what we've been left with. And then the question becomes, okay, if that's the solution, that's the idea we have, who do we need? Okay, in terms of not who, but kind of what skill sets do we need? And I suppose, Martin, that relates to where are we going to get these people from? You know,
Yeah,
that's another.
that's a good one.
That's a downstream problem. Sorry, Vincent. Vincent's got his hand up.
No, I just wanted to. So you guys have gotten through to section 4.
Yeah.
Is that right? So you've taken an idea through multiple groups of people. They've workshopped through the first 3 portions, and that's mostly about communication and branding of the problem, not of Catalyst, of a problem. You have a problem and you figured out, okay,
yeah,
you have an idea of the problem, we've got a brand for this problem, and now we're trying to create the actual project documentation. So you've gone from like branding and conceptualization in this first 2 or 3 steps.
Yeah.
And now you're moving into PMO land, like project management land, where you're now trying to do work breakdown and asset management, resource allocations and stuff. Is that kind of right? And you've already done this for a previous problem. That problem happens to deal with Catalyst, but in general, it could be anything. But right now, we're on section 4. If okay, so if that's right, then what I would say is for number 4, because I'm going to take something that you said at the beginning, Tevo, and that's that mini proposals should be around that 2,000 ADA mark, which is between a 2 and 5. Let's just call it 5,000 USD, or 2,500 or 3,500 euro or something like that. I would, instead of going people to like the people we need and then try to fill those roles, I would actually start with a work breakdown structure and start doing an hour estimation for each work breakdown task. And the reason I would flip that is you're going to see right away whether or not this proposal is in scope of that budget. Because you can say, I need a marketing, what do you need the marketing designer for? Do you need them for some logos or for some icons? Maybe you can afford $300 in icons. But if you need somebody to come through and design a lot, like a website, right? Like that could blow out the entire budget right there. You're not even going to get a UX designer for 2 weeks for that budget, right? So specifically to number 4, I would say that it might be good to follow the work breakdown structure thing, and then to connect those work breakdown tasks to people once the work breakdown is proven to be within scope of the proposal that you're thinking about, right? So if the work that we think we need for this project, we think can be done in a reasonable amount of hours, and if wages are, and we can go out on the line and actually find wages, right? We can actually do this. We can say, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. People can say, okay, it'll take me about, or it'll take somebody that I know about X hours to do it. And they would bill, we can go online and get those billings for that task specifically, or estimate it, right? However, we just know right away whether or not the scope of the problem is within the mini proposal budget. Does that kind of make sense? That's what I would say for 4. That's my input.
Okay, let's try it out. So now the numbers won't match, but for me, that like estimating time starts at chapter 11, which is far away, but we can start from here and see where it lands. So you wanted to define components. So I kind of did say a few things on the role side already, so I'm gonna copy paste them over. So somebody who shares information and in this particular case, we use this Twitter, and I think it takes him like 15 minutes. Like he just knows what's up, he logs in, he posts it, make sure it got through, no errors. So that's my.
Well, this is not actually somebody developing the project, right? This is somebody using what is developed. Is that right? So somebody is actually, somebody is going to use this, and it'll take them 15 minutes to onboard. Is that right?
I think the proposal is about somebody who is doing the information sharing. So what state you are in at IdeaScale. It doesn't say that like what your state you are as a proposer you are, but here is a fund 6, it's in an insight stage. And now we are moving into the proposal stage. And now he shares the Twitter message, hey, everybody, you can now create proposals, and every like few days he updates. You still have few days to go to the proposal. If you have ideas, look at these challenges, and maybe like keeps adding more information. And once the proposal is ended, and now it starts, okay, you can now refine your proposals. The comments are open, people can suggest you. And announcement like these are like regular paces for the user of IdeaScale and proposal and advisors. It's like the feed of, okay, what's going on. And at some point they will see, oh, community advisors are being prepared now. In 4 days, you can register. So it's like information feed.
Yeah, but it's how to assess the time and resources it takes to do that.
Right. So like what you've explained is the people that aren't going to be paid to build the system, right? This is, or I guess I'm curious, like, is this somebody that sounds like a recurring position if somebody's going to be doing it all the time, right? So if you're going to have, and they're going to be doing this for every single project, or is this in one project? You know what I'm saying? Like where?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Like for now, I assume to keep this proposal into scope, it probably has to be only one funding round, because if it's a recurring thing, you have to do it ongoingly, then you would need to request more. But so idea, I guess, for this would be that let's try to fit it into entire fund 6, add all the components there and make sure that it's in the budget. So it's like a pilot project for the community. Like if for fund 6 this entire thing works, okay, so this is proposal for fund 6, so it would be for fund 7, but and then people will actually be able to use, follow the feed and get to know the content, to get accustomed with it, and we would also see the value of what does it bring attention, does it not, and if it's something worthwhile, then probably the same thing is also as a proposal in the fund 7.
Okay, so I just want to ask something. I don't want. I'm trying not to be too managery. Is this funding a test user of a system that this proposal is going to fund construction of, or is this funding a Catalyst community, like a proposal community member who is going to go through all the proposals that reach a certain stage and then communicate this to the people at large?
Well, that this is for us to decide, but I think it's going to be very time consuming if you have to go to every single community member and trying to figure out their state of proposal.
So that, I mean, this is a good question, right? Like, so who are we paying to do what, and how often are we paying them? You're paying somebody to share this information, but for what? Are they going to share this information for just their own proposal, or are they going to share it for all proposals? Or so if they're going to be sharing it for all proposals, then what you're talking about is setting up effectively a salaried individual whose job it is to communicate the status for all proposals. Or are you setting up a set of infrastructure that automatically populates a Twitter feed that everybody can work with? And if it's the latter, then you wouldn't actually put this shares information as a work for this proposal. That's a test user who that'd be a developer test user, right? So that would be part of UX testing, not necessarily part of I don't know if that makes sense.
Martin's got his hand up.
So could you Twitter an idealized, the best ever fund proposal in each stage as an example for everybody? Is that something you would Twitter?
So you wouldn't select all proposals to communicate. You just select a certain type of proposal or a certain quality of proposal.
Yeah, or maybe the very best proposal and the absolute worst proposal, and then make a comparison.
Yeah. So, and then, but I suppose that circles back to Vincent's question of what are you trying to achieve? Is that what you're saying, Vincent? Because
well, I'm just trying to get specific about what the proposal is going to fund and what kind of role we're trying to create. So if we're trying to create, it sounds to me like you're trying to create a publicist for proposals.
Yeah, well,
whose job it is to publicize the status of proposals. And if that's the case, that's fine. I'm totally for that. I think it'd be great to have free publicist for all the proposals. Sounds fantastic.
And Martin's but Martin's solution to you then brought up the problem of scale, because and then Martin's had a possible solution for that, which is not to choose everything, but to take a selection. And are we moving on to what that selection should be? Is that another thing that the person we're paying We're paying someone to do this, presumably. So they need to, do they not only need to post this on Twitter, but they need to choose what to post on Twitter?
Yeah. No, I just want to put another angle here. I don't know if I'm confused or I'm confusing you, but I'm trying to think what's the end goal completely. The end goal eventually is to find projects that can scale on Cardano, right? I mean, that's the end goal of all the process. Eventually, it's not just to get a proposal, but then we want the proposal to then develop, and finally we want them to get growing project on the Cardano network, right?
This specific, no,
That's
this,
the idea at scale. So if that's the objective, I mean, we might need to think a little bit different. But again, I'm just for me jumping into that because we are getting into a lot of stages, and finally to get a project at scale, you might need the key is getting the right team in place in the beginning. And then because many things will change after and many things will develop, and it's not about a specific proposal, but I don't know if it's confusing or not, and if I'm on track here, but.
Well, the one thing what happens here is for these 4 roles I mentioned before, right now we went to the content, but you don't need a team for this. You can literally do it alone and see, who is the worst proposal in your mind? Who is the first very best proposal in your mind? Maybe you create a forum where people do some small voting and you just select from that place and then you make a Twitter post. But you kind of need some kind of design material there. Maybe you find the Google sheet or you fill about the Photoshop thing. So yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we need a marketplace for teams to create people that can work with tasks, but I don't know. Okay, I'm just trying to understand more, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm learning, so it's good.
No, that's good. That's good. Martin, again.
So you probably need to research with people who are very well informed about the Catalyst process, which proposals to select to write the best information you can, and then store it and improve that every time you do this, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that, yeah.
And Vincent?
Yeah, I think there's still confusion about what the product is. Like Yoram is saying, what is the product of this mini proposal? Because this is why I think there's a lot of running around is figuring out, and this is why I wanted to do the work breakdown structure. If you don't have a defined product, it's very, very hard to define tasks to build that product. And right now, I think the solution sounds like, okay, we need to put things on Twitter, but then you get into the space of like, well, who's going to do that? And how are they going to do that? And so there's no defined product. So this makes me want to go back. This makes me want to put in a loop step to go back to, I think, section 2, maybe section 1, or chapter 3, to describe the solution and just to make sure that I don't think in section 3 a concrete enough end product was defined to go forward past the title phase. So I mean,
which is fair enough. It's fair enough to say that because we've kind of inherited a solution, haven't we? So maybe that solution didn't really meet the problem. So in a sense, you know, I mean, this workshop doesn't really provide any answers. It's kind of replicating the kind of problems that we will encounter in drafting a proposal. I don't know if you've drafted proposals before. You might have drafted a proposal and you think, oh, it starts off great, and you've got the solution to something, and then after a while you think, oh, I just came up with a completely wrong solution. I just wasted all this time. I need to go back to the beginning again and do the solution again. You know, so that's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
but do we want, again, it's a question, but do we want to get many projects, or we want to somehow help to improve the quality of the project, right? Of the offering, of the proposal. To get, again, because for me, you know, if there is a proposal, actually making mini proposal out of it can be wonderful, because focus and will make the project, the proposal maybe much more attractive and help it to actually succeed better, which is a big tendency for most proposal of startups to try and do many things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think
the success of the proposal somehow, or the quality of the proposal, to separate it.
It's easier to maintain that quality at a smaller scale, Yoram.
Yeah, it's scale. It can be a quality at small scale. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's also quality. It doesn't have everything to be huge scale.
this session is quite interesting because we are actually talking about sequence, how to build this proposal. And I think it comes down to the perspective, as I experienced that after I did some brainstorming, okay, what is the common thread of all my proposals? Because I had the idea in my head, but right now we are in a situation where the idea was in somebody else's head, and now we have to figure it out what he meant. And for me, the chapter 4 was quite easy to what roles do I need, because I knew the product. And in the chapter 5, I had this, what kind of proposal you're making, what you now, Vincent, said after realizing that it's so hard to pinpoint the actual roles down and the objects when we don't even know what we are doing. So this is one thing that we can take this now and see if we can figure out that. But just in case, maybe I will go through a few more of these chapters to see if maybe there is something else what is more important than the product right now.
So to recap, I mean, Vincent's view is to go back to, I don't want to speak to you, is to go back to and redo the solution. And then there's the question of what we've inherited. And I suppose it's a bit like going to idea scale at any given day and looking through all those different proposals on idea scale. And there's a lot of them. And you go through them, and that each of them have different qualities, but there's, so what I suppose we're trying to improve with this exercise, we're trying to create a method where we can improve the quality of drafting a proposal at a small scale, And if we
what I think would be really helpful, I'm not an agile fan at all, actually.
No, I know.
I actually hate agile. I'm a PM that hates agile. But one thing that I think is very useful is defining, once you think you have a concrete product, defining user stories that use that product to create an outcome. There's one thing that I do like about agile is that if you think you have a good product, then you should be able to say, I will use this product, I will do this with this product to do this. Like if I will use my cell phone to call Yoram. If I can't explicitly say something that clear, then my product isn't defined enough. The mechanisms of interaction with that product are not defined enough. Even without going into the details with the work breakdown structure and the task to actually create whatever it is that we want to create here, some interface to Twitter, some kind of a logging step, some way of forking these proposals, whatever. I don't think the product is well defined enough if we can't define how the users are going to interact with it. And this brings, you're not going to be able to explain to a UX person what they're building unless they know how the user's actually going to use it. You're not going to be able to define to the developers what pipelines and backends unless they know what kind of data they're getting.
So to use the agile terminology, there should be a user story at the solution stage.
Yes, I think that would be super helpful because it'll tell you right away, you have not defined a product with enough detail to really go and then invest another 100 hours, or not 100 hours, but invest another 20 or 30 or 40 hours to develop the rest of the proposal.
I see Martin agrees. Yeah. So yeah. No, I mean, that's,
you user story first, maybe.
yeah.
Sorry to make a zero.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's how it works, you know, because it's quite interesting that we have a series of workshops, and then we kind of, it's like, it's been like a game. You're given what the outcome, what came out of each workshop, and we kind of inherited that. And then the question arises in this workshop: well, should we discount that and then go or reform it and go back and because there's something missing? And as Vincent used, so what's missing is, you know, the user story, the kind of rationale, the usability rationale for aspect of the solution.